Right. Welcome back to another Inside Success podcast. Today, we're joined by Dr. Nashay Lowe, the founder of Lowe Insights Consulting, a scholar and a scholar practitioner in conflict transformation. To me, conflict is something we all experience, whether at work, in communities, or even within ourselves. But Dr. Nashay's work helps leaders approach the conflict not as something to fear, but as something one can learn to grow. Dr. Nashay, welcome. It's so great to have you here today with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
To start, could you please introduce yourself and share what your work centers around, please?
Absolutely. So, as you mentioned, I'm Dr. Nashay Lowe, Dr. Shay by some. I'm originally from California in the Bay Area. I lived in Atlanta, Georgia for a while. I lived overseas for quite a bit. And now I'm located in Nashville, Tennessee, in the States. And how I got here really is I spent a large amount of time traveling to over 30 countries now, learning how different people relate, connect, and resolve conflict over differences. And I've always just been fascinated by social relationships, the way that we interact with each other, whether it's a family dynamic, a friendship, your colleagues, whatever that looks like. And so once I finished my master's in international relations, I took that a step further to focus on the conflict management side to understand how we resolve conflict at a global level. And so now I take those frameworks that I've learned along the way and I apply them more at the micro level, helping people sort of navigate everyday conflicts that are inevitable. And that could be social relationships, again, work, family, friends, etc. I see common threads between all these things. And so now I try to help people reimagine how they approach conflict, just so that it doesn't destroy us, but helps us grow stronger together.
Yes, that's such an important perspective. Conflict isn't something to eliminate, but something we can learn to engage with constructively. So looking back, were there any specific experiences early on that really shaped the direction you took today?
Great question. I think by nature, I am a problem solver. I was just sort of the person that people came to for advice when it came to different relationship dynamics. And as I grew older, I didn't really think it was something I can turn into. I just kind of thought I was being a good friend or a good, partner or family member. But once I learned I can take these sort of innate skills I have and complement it with academic training and professional development, I really just wanted to be in a field doing something that I felt I was naturally good at, that highlighted my strengths, but also brings the best out of other people.
Yes, that's interesting. So when you hear the word conflict, Dr. Nashay, how do you define it? And why do you believe that it's such an important area of focus today?
Absolutely. You said it perfectly when we started the interview. It's inevitable. It's no matter what you try to do, you're going to try to avoid it all you want. It's a part of our lives. And when I say conflict, I think some people have more of an extreme definition of it, meaning like it's a violence type of thing or like a physical interaction. But really, there's all types of conflicts. We have them internally with ourselves. We have them between different types of people that we encounter every day. And to me, I just sort of look at it as any type of friction that maybe keeps you from being your best self. And how I look at it today and over time is I try to look at it as information. A lot of times when we encounter a conflict, it's really a mirror of so many things going on within yourself. It's easy to blame the other person you're in conflict with for just everything that you think they're doing wrong. But a lot of times if you use it constructively, again, it can tell you a lot about yourself. And I'm always seeking, again, to grow and be better. And so for me, it's become a value point of personal growth.
Yes, that's really interesting. And what's especially remarkable about your understanding about conflict isn't limited to one environment or one culture. You lived, studied, and worked in more than 30 countries, as you mentioned, places like Jordan, South Korea, Greece, Cuba, to name but a few. That kind of global exposure gives you a rare lens of leadership and human connection. So to you, how did those cross-cultural experiences shape the way you understand identity, power, and as well as conflict?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay. So I think for me, my global experiences it just brought everything down to a very grounded, humane level. Meaning it's so easy to get caught up in the symptoms of everything going on around us. It's so easy to pick a difference between us instead of taking the time to learn and see what we have in common. And I think what I noticed, no matter where I went, we're not speaking the same language, we might not eat the same food, whatever it is. Kids want to laugh and play. People want to spend time with their families. Everyone wants to be in love. It's these core values that happen. They may look different, but they happen all around the world. And I think it was those moments of realizing what really threads us together across all other differences, political, religious, racial, etc. When you're able to see that connection between us all, I think that's the beginning of really understanding what's possible. And then when you see what's possible, it's hard to look back.
That's great. I think the service and purpose that you mentioned truly shines when during your time that you serve as a Peace Corps volunteer, an experience that I think deepened your commitment to community-centered problem solving. So can you please share a bit about that? How did that chapter of service shape the leader and practitioner you've become today?
Very interesting experience for me because most of my experiences, if it's not, just to say for the record, were not glamorous experiences, meaning like, it's not like you see people today on Instagram traveling all over with first class. It's nothing like that. When I was traveling, it was for the experience, and therefore it was the hostels and the long economy flights and all of that stuff. And Peace Corps took you down a further notch, meaning, we lived in we weren't, many of us didn't live in the capitals and the big cities. We were in very small villages, very isolated from a lot of the general public. And so you really got integrated with your local community. And I think what that taught me, it shaped the way I saw leadership at a micro level, meaning I've always been a big picture thinker where I'm always thinking about, presidents and prime ministers and leaders of the UN Council. Like I kind of think very big positions when it comes to leadership. And I think people do the same when it comes to workspaces. You think about the CEO and the founder, those roles are important. It's the foundation. However, the people making things work every day are the employees or the community members. And so when I was in Jordan in this small village, the people with the most influence are the ones that are doing the tasks that impact your daily lives. So it wasn't easy for me to just, especially as a foreigner. I remember the first time I went to go get my mail, I had to sit down and have tea with the mail carrier for like 30 minutes, like almost like a gatekeeper for me to even get access to something, because that's the one person in town who does this job. And so I had to learn and get to know like almost every position at a personal level before we can even get to the business. I found that so fascinating. And so it just really highlighted the different ways that leadership looks. It's not just through titles and positions. It's really who has influence and connection to their community members. And that's something I carried with me moving forward, because a lot of times it's those people who have the truest impact to bring people forward.
That's love. Yes, that's very beautiful. You've spoken about leadership not as authority, but as influence, about creating the conditions for people to thrive. And I think that feels important in today's world, where leadership is often confused with visibility or control. So Dr. Nashay, when you first realized that leadership for you would rather be about impact than position, so how do you emphasize that sustainable leadership is about alignment between values, actions, and the communities we serve? How do you emphasize that message?
I try to do that through my own community building, honestly. So really helping other peers realize they have just as much voice and impact as me or anyone else speaking. It's just what we choose to use with that platform. And so, for example, right now I'm building up a school community called the Resolution Society. So people who listen to my podcast, The Resolution Room, and like those themes already, I want to take it a step further, and not just them listening to my voice for an hour on end, but actually getting to hear theirs as well and letting them know it's just as important to the conversation. And so I think when you just give people room to voice as well and let them know they have the capacity to do so and that it matters. It's one thing to tell someone just, hey, your voice matters, do this, do that. But when you don't give them the space to actually do it, it really doesn't mean anything. So I
Yeah.
really strive on the podcast again to really, if I think if anyone looks at my promotion for my episodes, I'm not even in the clips. I highlight the guests. It's about them and
Mm.
highlighting their voice. And again, same with the Resolution Society. In that group, it's not about me leading some kind of flock. It's about
Mm.
us learning from each other. We're all experts in our own lives. And
Yes.
so how do we take those experiences and learn from each other so that we can all do a little better?
Yeah, what's so powerful is that you didn't just study conflict, you built something to address it, not just the residents' communities, but also Low Insights Consulting, which emerged from a simple but urgent question. Why do so many organizations invest in mission and strategy, yet struggle when conflict arises inside of their systems? So I love to take a bigger picture, Dr. Nashay, and understand your inspiration behind Low Insights. What gap did you feel organizations needed to help filling?
Systems.
Hmm.
In short, I
Yes.
feel like a lot of times the intent is there. You get a lot of
Hmm.
good people, even in corporations, who want to come in, bring people together, do these great things, live up to these missions they create. But like any other goal, if you don't have systems in place to help you achieve that goal, it's just hard to sustain. And
Hmm.
so I think a lot of people come in just thinking it's something they can declare and that people will follow suit. But when you don't have those, again, things in place that are setting the tone for how this organization and culture is going to run, it's just so easy to lose sight of that bigger mission and that shared goal that you have with others. And so I really try to emphasize systems building with organizational leaders because again these are the institutions shaping our daily lives. We try to do everything from the ground up, which I think is still the right approach to go, but there's only so much we can go without that cooperation. And so really getting those leaders to understand how things should be organized in a way that actually meets what they declare they're going to do. So it's not enough to create a new position for a DEI officer and hand off every complaint you have to this person to magically fix it. That's just not how it works. You have to be invested in making the change yourself because breaking it down again at that humane level, an organization is a group of individuals running something that becomes bigger than them. And so when you're able to start impacting people again at a group level, at a team level, at an individual level, and enough individuals are making those daily changes, it impacts the majority, right? So
Hmm.
I try to do that sort of reverse system of breaking down the big organization to individuals who are one by one making those systemic changes, and that impacts the long run.
Hmm. Yes, that's interesting. Your work aligns strongly with conflict scholar John Button's idea of conflict prevention, and I'm curious to learn more about that. Can you share what does proactive conflict leadership actually look like in practice today?
Absolutely, absolutely. I love this concept. During my PhD program, I was a student of his work,
Yeah.
and he has the term provention. I actually think a lot of people think I'm doing a typo in my things, and they think I mean prevention, but I'm like, no, it's
Yeah.
provention. That's what it is.
Mm.
And so it goes a step further from prevention because, again,
Mm.
it goes back to that systems thinking I was talking about, where it's not about just trying um, to stop something from happening. It's
Mm.
about creating systems, policies, and structures in advance that address basic human needs for there not to be a conflict to arise in the first place. So let's get there. Like, I feel like at this point in history,
Yeah.
we've learned enough that we know how to do better. We just don't do it. Like, let's be honest, there's enough information and historical anecdotes to know um, a lot of different approaches we could at least attempt to take. And so, in proactive strategies, again, it's about not just asking what can we do differently, but determining that human need that wasn't met in the first place to cause the conflict, and how do we address that so that this doesn't happen again with anyone else.
Mm,
So it's a much deeper penetration we get there because a lot of our current approaches just kind of again hit the symptom or the
mm,
surface level of the issue. It's one thing to address the conflict. This is very minuscule, but like instead of just, oh, Kate stole my yogurt again.
mm.
Is it really about the yogurt, or what is that need for hunger? Like, let's get deeper of like why this keeps happening. And I think we could put a sign on the fridge that says don't take my yogurt, or we can figure out what's causing this person to keep doing it when we tell them not to.
Mm.
Very silly example, but it's the first thing that came to my mind.
No, I love that analogy.
I'm clearly
Yeah,
hungry.
yeah. Feeling hungry, yeah. So, okay, so interesting. So when an organization comes to you, Dr. Nashay, I'm curious, like, what are some of the most common challenges that they are facing? Can you share with us some of the common themes that you see across organizations, beside the systems that you just mentioned?
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest things is role clarity,
Mm,
accountability, um, and just the way people are having communication. So, starting with the first one, it's really tough because I do a lot of work too with like nonprofit education sector
right.
too, and obviously they are usually severely under resourced and over relied upon.
Mm,
And so what happens is what their day to day looks like, of course, is nothing like the description in their job posting that they applied for.
mm,
You have to wear so many hats in a day
yeah.
that it's almost impossible to keep up with the workload, and let alone actually serve the community you're trying to serve. So many things are happening behind the scenes. And
Mm,
so it gets to a point where people start either overstepping or understepping in their role because it's not clear what my day to day is supposed to look like. And it's really tricky to navigate. I think a little more tricky to navigate in the nonprofit and education space than corporate, just because corporate roles tend to be a little more defined by
yeah.
nature. Again, in nonprofit especially, it's just very unpredictable what happens from the day to day,
Mm,
and especially in education as well. So it's a little trickier to navigate that.
mm,
But I think teaching leaders how to help them do triage of what's happening in a day. So
mm,
if 50 things get thrown at you, being able to in real time actively prioritize what needs to be done before the other, and what can wait till after this time, and what can wait till
mm,
tomorrow, what can be even pushed off to the next week, what can be delegated, what can be shared. Being able to actively triage that in your mind is a skill that we work on.
mm,
And I think it helps people feel more confident in their decision-making skills at the moment instead of just getting overwhelmed. Accountability kind of plays into the role clarity because, again, either one person ends up doing everyone else's job, and so, and people let them, of course, because who wants to do more work?
mm,
Um, or the other thing happens, they don't do enough because someone else is taking over, or again, they just don't know what to do. And
mm,
so the tricky thing about that, the accountability part, if there happens to be an employee, maybe quote unquote slacking off a little bit, especially in the nonprofit space,
right.
I think that leaders, especially middle management, find it difficult to actually address them because they are under resourced. They know that they can't easily replace them as well.
Mm,
And so it becomes this thing where how do I hold someone accountable without risking this person just quitting on me, and now we're stuck without another staff member. So it's a delicate balance of, and it's a case by case scenario, of course, how to address accountability in different settings.
mm,
Um, and then in communication skills, I mean, those translate across any type of relationship,
mm,
but it's really, I think, getting people to shift from the language we're using, accusatory language. And
yeah.
so when you're entering a conversation trying to be right, or just proving someone wrong, or win the argument, we're starting off on the wrong foot. It's impossible to have a constructive dialogue that way. And so really getting people to take a step back and take the approach of trying to bridge understanding and actually understand how did we get to this point, what is happening, and understanding the other person's point of view, because we all have one. Just how we think we're right, they think the same exact thing about their position. So taking that time to actually figure out what's happening and then address it from there, and addressing it in a way, again, that's not using accusatory language. So I always tell people to shift from um, personal attacks to task-based language. So instead of you did this, you did that, it's this needs to be done, this, that, like those kind of more neutral words that point to the task at hand and not the person. So, and that goes back to accountability as well. Like, to a certain extent, when do you need to be more personal about it so the person understands this is an issue that needs to be resolved within yourself and not just the task. So it's all delicate, but those are three things that I say come up almost everywhere.
Yes, that's interesting that you highlighted all of that and the solutions that you're trying to help organizations tackle these challenges. I think beside that, you also created a resolution room podcast, a space for leaders to engage the conversations publicly. I'm curious, like, what inspired you to bring this work into dialogue through podcasting?
Yeah, I wish I can take full credit. My partner actually encouraged me to do this. I
Yeah.
did a lot of interviewing and group-based dialogue in my old job, and I wasn't so bad at it. So it was just something we were trying to do on a creative basis for the consulting. Like, how can we relate to more people? Because again, this work does translate everywhere. And so at a consulting level, yes, I try to focus on organizations and institutions, but I do try to have something to offer the general public because we're all going through these things every day. And so it's become a space. It just honestly took a life of its own. I wasn't expecting this,
Yeah.
but it's been amazing talking to all types of leaders, coaches, consultants, just experts in this field of communications and leadership, organizational change. And really, we're just trying to give people practical tips and advice that work across contexts. So a lot of my guests seem like they have nothing in common, and to a certain extent, maybe so. But if you listen to the conversations, there's so much overlap in what they say that happens in the specific issues that they're working on as well inside organizations. So again, it's the same things over and over again. And it's just that thing that shows, again, we have so much more in common than we think.
Yes. So I think one of the greatest strengths that shine through during our conversation is your ability to pair empathy with structure, bringing emotional intelligence into space that often avoided. So why do you think emotional intelligence is still underestimated in leadership communication today?
I think, like so many things, it's just unfortunately become like a buzzword that's lost meaning. It's just, it's not that I think people even know that it's not that it doesn't matter. It's just you almost get exhausted of hearing certain words over and over again,
Yeah.
So once we can get past that, this is why I get caught up in it sometimes too. I try not to use the buzzword itself and instead describe the value it brings or what it means. Because a lot of times, if you just say, you give yourself a label or just say, oh, I'm an empath, I'm this, well, people hear that and they might get turned off. But if I just explain that when I talk to someone, I really feel their emotions. And when I walk away, I kind of feel, if I explain what I'm feeling, I guarantee more than often that person would be like, oh, okay. Like, I get what you're saying. But it's just different when we lead with the labels and the buzzwords. So I think that's probably a big issue with that one.
Right.
But it's a never ending, the need for it has not died. It's needed more than ever. And that's a big part of why I started the consulting firm. I really wanted a space where, even for myself, honestly, maybe I started off making this for myself as well. I wanted to just show up as myself, and it's enough, and it's relatable, and people feel like this is not just another person calling themselves a speaker talking at me. This is just a human being who has certain experiences that she's trying to help me through or with. And they feel connected with me. And I think my ability to just show up and not feel performative helps people get in touch with their own emotional intelligence of showing up with the pieces of themselves that shine, brighter.
Yes. That's a wonderful perspective that you have. So I think for the rest of the interview, let's talk more about the future of leadership as it is evolving, definitely. So as organizations are being challenged to move beyond quick fixes towards sustainable cultural shift, Dr. Nashay, what kind of trends do you believe will reshape the leadership and conflict transformation in the next few years?
Okay. So I think building off of what we just talked about, I think authenticity is back in style.
Yeah.
I think again, people want to feel connected to a person who gets it.
Mm,
I think people want to feel heard, they want to feel seen. Um, and when you're able to just provide that space, it makes all the difference. Um, and so I think starting there with that authentic, safe space is number one. And this is probably the hardest part of my job that I'm hoping is understood as we move forward.
mm,
There's no quick fixes. Like when I tell you, like, there's no way to make that sound sexy. Like I
mm.
can't. It's not a hot thing I can say, and people are like, "Oh, I want to buy that because I want to dedicate the next 10 years of my life." You
Right.
can't sell that, you know. But the reality is, I think anyone who is dedicated to professional and personal development knows
Mm,
it is a day by day commitment. Like with anything else, and we always use stuff like the gym because it's so relatable. We all
mm,
know you can't go to the gym for a week and you start to see progress and it's great. And then now because you see the progress, you stop and you go right back to your same habits.
mm,
It's a long-term game. One thing that really helps me with the whole gym and fitness thing is I had to change my mind of stop saying I'm going to get into shape and telling myself I'm making a lifestyle change. So I'm not going to eat clean for 30 days. I'm going to try to eat clean, period.
yeah.
You know, it's just
Yeah.
it's a mental shift of really just telling yourself I'm not going to do this workshop and then never look at my notes again. It's I'm going to do this, I'm going to show up to this space, try to take what I learned and apply it as
Mm,
often as I can. And really getting people to commit to that when they have everything else in their worlds going on is a very difficult thing. But the more we can really get leaders in those spaces to understand that and even get them to do more long-term commitments with us makes a big difference. So even for myself, I do my best to not do one-off workshops with organizations. At
mm,
a minimum, I like to be there for 4 months. Um, that's because I'm talking to your teams continuously over a certain amount of time to where we're working on these things and it becomes more habitual. So the
mm.
chances of them doing this long term increases because they didn't just forget what I said the next day. They're going to see me again next week and I'm going to ask them about it.
Yeah.
So again, it's that consistency and really just having an accountability partner to
Mm,
help you maintain that consistency. So to answer, I'm not sure if I answer your question. I'm not sure if that is a trend, but I would love it to become
mm.
one. Is really just understanding what it takes to do this work, and not only that, not doing this work to just check boxes. Don't
Yeah.
hire consultants to come in because you went through a lawsuit and now you have to save your face in the public. And so now you're going to do these DEI workshops to show that, hey, like
Yeah.
that's not going to make any changes either. Again, it should be, I feel like as human beings running these organizations at a human level, and I always go back to that first, you know, because I think we
Mm.
forget at a human level, we should be striving to be our best individually, our best collectively, and then that translates again back into the systems improving as well.
Yes, that's
I don't even know
beautiful.
if that answered your
Right.
question.
Definitely, yes. I think it all boils down to the accountability partners that you've just mentioned, where you have someone there slowing you down, listening and engaging, helping you to engage thoughtfully as a form of leadership. So, last question, and I love ending here because it brings everything back to purpose. So, when people think of Nashay Lowe years from now, not just your credentials, but the lives and systems that you've created, what legacy do you hope your work will leave behind?
Mm. I hope people think about community and connection and using dialogue as a means to build that community and connection. So I hope people, when they cross my path, feel like when I talked to her, she looked at me in my eyes. She wasn't stuck on her phone. She was engaged with me. Like I do my best when I'm talking to someone to engage with them, not listen passively. Um, there's nothing more, well, unless some kind of real emergency happened. For the most part, there's nothing going on right now where I need to stop focusing on my talking to you and look at my phone and go scroll on Instagram. Like there's nothing that distracting that needs to happen right now for me to not give you my full attention. You deserve that much. So I think making people, again, going back to feeling seen, it's as simple as just being engaged in a conversation. And I think that I actually am more of an introverted person, but when I do connect with people and I do go out and do this, I think people will say that when
Mhm.
they talked to me, they felt connected.
Yes. Dr. Nashay, thank you again for such a thoughtful and grounding conversation and for the work that you're doing to help individuals and institutions to move from reaction to intention. Before we end this podcast interview, if the audiences want to follow your work or, the next journey that you are having, Dr. Nashay, what are the best channels that you recommend?
Absolutely. So the website is loweinsights.com. That's LOWEINSIGHTS.com.
Yeah.
On Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, it's all at Low Insights, LOWE. And our podcast is pretty much where you can find most mainstream podcasts, Spotify, Apple. It's The Resolution Room.
Mm.
And you can also look up our community on the school platform with the K, school, and it's called the Resolution Society. And right now, the first 50 members are free and have lifetime access, so you might want to join soon.
Wonderful. I think our audiences would love that. Thank you so
Yes.
much, Dr. Nashay. So I think it ends our conversation today. Our lovely conversation with many, many insights for our audience to take away from. Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you for so many thoughtful questions.